You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? It's produced. Hold on just a second. Cease and desist, Kyle? Really?
You owe me $5.
Yeah. Fine. Greetings, interwebs. It's Jay. This is In Stores This Week, where we're going to talk about books that are in stores this week. And by talk about them, you're just going to hear me say, not that bad, I hate fish people, pretty art. You want a really good review show, make sure you stick around for a minute to skim it after us. As always, take every negative thing we say about a book you might like with a grain of salt. If you like it, go for it, get it. The goal here, at least my goal, is to talk about books that I really like. So you'll go to your local comic shop, put that on your pull list. Then you won't have to worry about in a few months when that number one first print goes up to $50 or $60. Just want to say before we get started, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. The Experience hit a major milestone with 1,500 subscribers, and it's all thanks to this great community. Like, in all seriousness, you guys are the heart and soul of this, and the reason we get to do this. And now that I've wasted enough time, thanks for showing up. Stick around. This is In Stores This Week. As soon as I find the button. There it is. Here we go.
So let's start here. Remember, Dan is sick.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So we had to go out and get some replacements for Dan. And the thing about replacing Dan is that the people have to add up to like 9 feet tall. So I went and got 2 people because that's the only way we can get to the giant level we need. So, guys, if you watch Nerd News Now, you know this next person as the person who wants to talk to me about wrestling while Brainy and Miss Jen's eyes glaze over. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Mark Blair.
I'm always happy to talk about food as well, just so you know.
It's true. We do talk a lot about food. And joining him is the J to my silent Bob, my hetero life mate, the person who, when Miss Jen first met us, she thought I was going to kill this person. She didn't understand the shtick, and no one has sense. My business partner, my partner in crime, Amanda Harvey.
Hello. Hi. What an entrance.
Yes.
What an entrance.
So Dan is a big man. Dan once told me that he won't go to conventions that he can't drive to because he doesn't fit on planes. And, you know, as a bigger person myself, I know that feeling. So
extra leg room.
It's true. So welcome in X, Triple B, John, Backwoods Collector, to the show that never ends, or, well, ends prematurely. We have 9 books this week that we read. Mark and Amanda had to jump into the middle of some series. So this is going to be fun for them. I felt like I had to jump into the middle of some series just because, you know, my brain doesn't work. So we're going to rely on Jay to have remembered this stuff, or at least kept his notes from previous episodes. So let's get started with the books. We're going to start first with Van Helsing Annual, The Sins of the Father. And I'm going to give my first note, same note I always give on the Zenoscope books. 64 pages of content is too many pages of content.
Well, so you ready for a shock? I actually really like this one.
Even with the fish people.
Now, the fish people were mechanized. Okay, so it made it a little different. And that was my other note. I really like this one, even with the mechanized fish people. I thought it was a solid story. And for me, one of the better Van Helsing books we've gotten. Now, I didn't read all of it because, again, 64 pages. But unlike the other ones where I never look at it again, I will go back and read this one. Yeah, this one worked for me.
Mark?
It's 64 pages, but there's not too many words on some of the pages, so it's okay. But mostly it just really makes me mad because the blonde scientist reminds me of Felicity and reminds me how much time I've wasted on the Arrowverse, and the fact that Flash is still in the air. So that's really, and also there's like so much Van Helsing. It's like, how much can you take? Like, I don't even know. I'm jumping into this. I don't know what her relation is or whatever, but it's Van Helsing. Okay. I mean, can't there be like other monster hunters at this point? I don't know, Count Crawley or whoever, but it's just like, yeah. And steam
Right.
and steampunk. What is this from the 90s? What's the deal?
How about you, Amanda?
I also didn't finish it. And I think this is the first Van Helsing book I've read, but I didn't feel like I was missing too much. I think because it's an annual, it is definitely designed to kind of let you jump in and be a jumping on point. And I definitely didn't have that problem. Like, I didn't feel like I was missing, stuff from before. So I was enjoying it. The same problem I always have with Zenescope books, though, is that the cover is like gorgeous and then the interiors were good, but not at the same level.
Yeah. So the thing about Zenescope books, and I'm going to say this, and I would say this to David Wool's face. It isn't an annual if every book you do is a one shot. They're all annuals. You don't need to tell me. Okay. Now that I've yelled.
Okay.
The thing about this book for me is that we just had a Van Helsing book a few weeks ago. And this book doesn't feel at all related to it, other than that same character. And oh yeah, there's more fish people. Right? Like, is it a continuation or isn't it? I thought the interior art was solid. Like so many of the Zenescope books, the interior art's great. And the story is fine. It's longer than it needs to be. They have this confusing numerology structure in the way they release their books. And, if you want Van Helsing's daughter to be Van Helsing's daughter, she should maybe be more like the original dude. But beyond that, solid entry. Mm-hmm. If you're going to pick it up because you dig the cover, great. If you're going to pick it up because you dig Van Helsing, great. But it's not going to set the world on fire.
No.
All right. So White Savior number 3 of 4. Amanda and Mark had to jump in 3 issues into a bat crap crazy book.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I will say that. I'll admit it. I read the first page and was like, I don't know what's going on. And I put it aside to finish some of the other ones. So that's my review. It was interesting, that page, but it was too much for.
So for those of you who are jumping into the middle of White Savior, this is a time travel story. Kinda, but also not. It all starts with a guy who gets his pocket picked and then jumps through a portal and is in feudal Japan, and it's a play on the trope of the white savior, right? But in fact, the white savior is a buffoon who dies in the first panel of the first book, and it's this guy is now in that role and having to live this life. And the humor is, I don't know. Mark, what did you think?
Weekend at Bernie's. That's what I thought. That's all. My only takeaway was they made a Weekend at Bernie's reference, and that's fine by me. Because I wish I could be Weekend at Bernie's when we have to review the Star Trek book. No, I think this is interesting. The art is super weird, but it's almost like, I mean, anyway, I don't know if the word weird is okay on this show or not, because eclectic, different from my taste.
Weird is good.
Okay, because it's just it does remind me of like a quirky anime though. I kind of like it. It's just all over the place, and the vernacular is crazy for some of the people saying stuff they would never say, or from a time they would never say it. But I kind of like it, and also there's weird face peeling, so and just like killing random people and putting them in barrels. I don't know. Well, but my main takeaway was Weekend at Bernie's.
How about you, Jay?
Man, this is such a weird book. It's been weird since the first issue. Like it's fun. It's a fun book, but it's weird. I expect the people from the future to talk like they do, but when the villain does it, it just it feels it's funny, but it feels very out of place. Like it feels like there's a story behind why that guy talks like that too. It's definitely a book that you read for the humor. I would say turn your brain off, but then I'm afraid that if you did, you might miss something. Because I mean, there's things all over the page. Like even the editor's notes, you got to read the editor's notes because some of those are gold. Some of those are super funny. Now, while the book itself isn't like mind blowing, it really isn't. It's still a good time, and more than likely, once this gets done, because I think the next issue, 3 or 4, the next issue is the last issue. I will more than likely pick this up in a trade. I liked it.
Yeah, my take on this book at this point is that it's a binge book. You need to be able to read all 4 issues in one sitting, or somewhat therein, like without having to wait a month between issues. I do think we're going to find out in issue 4 that the bad guys from the future also. This whole thing is going to be a Mike Birbiglia payoff. I'm from the future also. Like I just can't imagine that that's not how this ends. If you're going to reference Leatherface and Weekend at Bernie's in the same book, you need to warn me up front so that I can go take some mushrooms. Like, I'm here for it, but I need to be altered. And I think that the creators of this book probably were when they made this book. Super fun, and it's so different for Dark Horse. Right? This is not your average offering from Dark Horse these days. And I think that's what makes this book special, is that it sticks out. Now, we're getting more offerings like this from Dark Horse in terms of the Patton Oswalt book. Help me out, Jay.
There you go. Yep.
And the Kevin Smith stuff, the View Askew-niverse that is existing at Dark Horse Comics now. So I think there's more like this coming. But when you look at the things that Dark Horse has published recently, this is a very different thing. And so it's worth noting, and it's worth commemorating for that. All right.
Guy Fieri, Batman. I forgot. Guy Fieri, Batman.
All right. Masters of the Universe, Masterverse, Thundercats Forever. Why don't you go ahead and go first, Mark?
What was going on in this book? Because I know, like, there's 3 or 4 stories, but like, are we missing something? Because this is like a the way we get a copy of this, or like, was there graphics or something missing, or are they expecting me to be able to follow this story? I'm so confused.
There's like a framing story. And then they usually do 1 or 2 alternate universe stories in the middle, and then they end it with the framing story.
So here's what I would tell you. In the first issue, Mark, you had a framing story, then you had a pretty traditional He-Man story, Masters of the Universe story. Then you had if Sergio Aragon's had written Masters of the Universe. So if Gru wrote Masters of the Universe, and then you had the framing story, right? And so the framing story is your through line that connects everybody. And so in this one, you had the framing story again at the beginning and the middle, and then the two stories were different people's takes on individual Masters of the Universe stories.
I like the art for the most part. But what's up with the weird film noir with Orko? What's going on there?
I think that's just one of the alternate universes is like a Spider-Man noir, but with He-Man.
Okay.
Yeah. Amanda?
I mean, I liked the switch in the color. Because it looks like when I read it, like I also felt lost a little bit. And I'm not a big like Masters of the Universe like fan. I watched it. I know like who these characters are, but that's kind of where my knowledge ends. I'm not a big fan, but I liked that how they kept the framing story, I think, different because it was colored versus that black and white. But that did run together. So I would have wanted more distinction between the two other stories, but it felt like a cartoon. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon where you get these short little bursts of story, and then here's another short little burst of story, and then we'll see you next week. So I liked that. It felt Saturday morning cartoon to me, and I enjoyed reading it. I don't know that I'd pick up more, but I did like it.
Have at it, Jay.
And for John, yes, I thought it was good. I enjoyed all three stories in this. The framing story, the 16 to 1700s. I don't want to say pirate ship, but around that era story, and the He-Man noir. I like that one too. I actually like this issue a bit more than the first one, but I kind of had the same problem as the first one too, where these two stories are so good. I want to see them continue. Like I want to see that Man at Arms as a detective noir. Like I want to see more of that. The art styles are perfect for all three, for me. And I know I've said in the past that I'm kind of tired of multiverse stuff, but this book in particular is different. As in, we're not seeing characters meet up. You're not having, it's like a self-contained universe kind of story. You're not having Beastman He-Man team up with Caveman Tila to rescue Skeletor He-Man or anything like that. We're just getting stories from these universes. So I dig it, and I can't wait to see what the next three stories are going to be, or two stories. I mean,
so I think I'm going to have a problem with this series as it goes on that I had with issue 1. I thought one of the stories was great and the other of the stories was fine, and that the framing story did what it needed to do. That's what I've found about this one, right? The framing story did what it needed to do. The first story was fine, and the story that was in black and white was so good. The noir kind of, can you imagine Prince Eric's voice being kind of Humphrey Bogart, See, I have the power, see? Like,
yeah.
I'm in. Make that movie. And by the way, if Snarf can be like played by Peter Lorre, even better.
Snarf. Are you thinking Thundercats again?
Yes. Because I want this to be Thundercats. Anyway. If Orko can be played by Peter Lorre, I'm fine with that too. I want any of these characters to be played by fine. Anybody can be Peter Lorre. Skeletor, whatever. Doesn't matter.
All of them, Peter
Right.
Lorre.
Right. Peter Lorre can do all the voice work. I'm not a Masters of the Universe guy. So you got to make it good. And that middle story did. And I thought the Sergio Aragon story in the first one did. Because it was so different. So with this book, if you dug the first one, you'll dig this one. I would like to see when it gets traded out, when it comes out in a collection, how they separate, right? Is the framing story, is it just they literally bind the books together in the order they come out in? Or are you taking the framing story and making it its own story and then doing it as like an anthology? I think that could be an interesting way to do this book. So I'll be interested to see what they do. And I'll keep reading because it's been a fun time. All right. The single greatest book on the market today.
Yeah.
It's Darkwing Duck. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. So I read these books in the way that the list was presented to me. And what a way to start the list this week. This was the first book on the list. I wish I would have read it later for one of these other books, but this was the one I read first. This story, again, is like reading an episode. And the art...
Sean's home.
Sean must be home. Hey, sorry. The art really helps with that illusion, right? And the characters are they're nailed down so well. You got Darkwing's just narcissism is just exactly how he was in the cartoon. And it was a bit of a shock, though, to learn that I'm older than Darkwing Duck in this story. I never knew his age ever in cartoons or anything. So that was kind of fun little trivia to know now. The team on this just needs to keep doing what they're doing.
Han, calm down.
He has a lot to say. He has feelings about this book.
Amanda, you should go get Gomez, and we should compare notes between Han and Gomez.
Telling you. But I want them to keep doing what they're doing because they are just creating like dynamite Disney magic with this book. Great book. So glad we're reading it.
How about you, Mark?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't quite know what was going on with him stepping down as Darkwing Duck and the other guy being there and the relationship that was going on, but I'm familiar with all those characters in the context of the cartoon. And it was comfort food to me. The art, it looks like Darkwing Duck. Like Jay said, it's just like an episode. So I actually really enjoyed this. I would like to read the first two to know kind of the context of the relationships of what's going on. But yeah, I enjoyed this a lot.
Amanda?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's going to be an echo kind of what was already said because yeah, it felt like an episode, but I didn't struggle with it being number 3 in the series. I thought they did a really good job of kind of making it be like just easy to kind of jump in and go. They did a little explanation about he's no longer Darkwing Duck. Okay, cool. And then any book with Launchpad is good on my, more Launchpad because he's one of my favorites.
So I liked Morgana maybe most in this issue. Morgana trying to do her best to be June Cleaver.
Yes.
When she's clearly Morticia Adams.
Yes.
Is everything, right? I want the joy of cooking with Morgana. Just her in the kitchen doing her Julia Child thing. I think that'd be hysterical. That to me was the most interesting part of this book. Having Darkwing step down from the Darkwing mantle, doing that kind of Batman's not Batman anymore story is tropey for me. Not a trope they've done in the Darkwing universe, so it's fine. But that to me was like, whoo. All right, I want more of this. I think Gaz being more of a smartass is the right voice for that character. Because it's ironic. I'm going to make another Addams Family reference. I can hear someone like, I'm going to forget her name, who just played
Jenna Ortega
voicing that character.
Yes.
Just dry and snarky, and I would have no problem if Luis Guzman voiced Darkwing Duck. It wouldn't bother me at all. So I'm here for it. This was, in my opinion, the strongest Darkwing yet in the series in terms of feeling most like an episode of the show. And so for me, this is more of what I want. All right.
Oh, I mean, I want the continuing adventures of Morgana and Gauze.
Yeah.
Like, can I just have those two hanging out for a little while? Because I'd love that.
Yeah. So this is the part of the show where we take a break from talking about comics and talk about something else for a minute. Usually we talk to Dan about what's going to be on the Dan Wickline show this week, but I don't know that Dan is going to be back this week. It's going to depend on how he feels. So it may be me filling in on the Dan Wickline show the rest of the week, in which case we're going to talk about stuff. I don't know that I'm ready to break out the tulip story on the Dan Wickline show yet, but maybe. So let's do this. Jay, I know there was a new Triangle of Truth video that dropped yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening with the Triangle of Truth?
Eventually, I'm going to do my video. I finally read All-Star Superman. I'm a humongous Superman fan, and I just now read that book. And I give my thoughts on it. A little bit of a spoiler. I thought it was okay. Probably not the best Superman story that I've personally read. That still belongs to Kingdom Come and Superman Unchained. That's just my opinion on that. I know Sean's got a couple of videos that he's wanting to do. I'm going to do an animated, best animated Superman movies from the DCAU. And then, like I said, just unboxing some more of the same. Oh, and Sean put in the comments, he's going to have an Experience live sale haul.
Nice. Mark, you do a bunch of podcasts and stuff, including Nerd News Now. Yeah. I can't remember what we talked about last night on Nerd News Now, but plug some stuff, bro.
I don't remember what we talked about either. Probably food and
we talked about socks. I remember talking about socks because I made a comment.
Compression socks,
not food.
Yeah, and how there's no compression socks for nerds. That was the main thing we talked about. I also do a show for The Adventure Begins called Cards to Yards, which is a sports card and collectible trading card podcast. And Avengers Flare Ultra came out last week, which of course was consumed by Upper Deck in the late 90s to early aughts. And it is ripe with nostalgia for anyone who used to collect trading cards or loves Marvel or trading cards. And that is one of the funnest things that's come out in a while. So the internet is rampant with box breaks on that. And then just other general nerd stuff. I mean, I didn't get to talk about The Last of Us finale because I think you immediately shut it down by saying you didn't like the game, which I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like the game. So that was interesting. But I like the show and I like the finale. I'll just leave it at that.
I'll tell you this, Mark. My idea of a perfect video game is Crash Team Racing.
You mean the Crash Test Dummies one?
No, Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because there was a Crash Test Dummies game as well.
No, I'm not an open world story based gamer. Like I just like games that are dumb, like you know, Crash Team Racing or Mario Kart or what's the game I've been playing recently on my Switch? Tetris. So, Amanda, do you have anything that you would like to plug or talk about?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just, here.
All right. So then I'm going to plug some stuff on the experience so you guys all know. Next Monday, 5 o'clock. Next Monday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock where Mark is and Jay is, 3 o'clock if you're in that weird time zone where no one lives next to them, 2 o'clock Eastern or 2 o'clock Pacific on Talking Shop with Miss Jen, the one, the only, the legend, Jim Starlin will be joining us to talk about his new book, Order and I'm going to forget the name of it. Order and Outrage #1 coming out from Dark Horse Comics. And Andrea Lorenzo Molinari will be joining us to talk about the new issue of The Shepherd coming out from Scout Comics next week. So that will be a big show. Then starting next Monday, we are starting our 1,500 subscriber giveaway. We teased it a little bit yesterday. #CommunityEXP. We will be giving away 15 graded comics with a total value of over $1,500 across our shows next week to celebrate 1,500 people subscribing to our YouTube channel. That doesn't mean you can stop sharing. Okay. Share. Like. Click the bell.
Yes.
There's problems with notifications on some of these platforms. Click the bell so that you can know when stuff's happening. If you don't click the bell, you don't get the notified. That's how that works. So do that. And then if you would, please, one other thing. And Jay, you might already still have the link copied. Sign up for the EXP mailing list. Henri and I are writing 2 mailers a week. We're working really hard to get you information directly to you. Sign up for the EXP mailing list and open them. Don't mark us as spam. It hurts my feelings when you mark us as spam. I had a whole existential crisis because someone marked us as spam this week. Okay, it's not good for my confidence.
Sorry, I did that.
No, I could see who did it. It wasn't you. So that's the wild thing is when you know who did it. So please sign up for the mailing list. Help us out. Do all those things. And if Dan's back tomorrow, turn in for the Dan Wickline show. On Thursday, if he's back, he'll be talking about The Mandalorian, which I think should be called That Show with Amy Sedaris.
Jeez.
All right.
Oh, Lord.
Next up, Draculina Blood Simple #2. Who would like to kick it off on the Draculinas?
You.
Okay. So you guys know how I'm not a fan of Draculina or characters with collars. That's a joke. That's a callback on the experience. This book did the thing I beg books to do. It had a page that reminded me what happened last time. And my God, did I need the page that reminded me what happened last time.
Yeah.
I don't remember that Draculina is different from Vampirella, is different from any of the other characters from this world. Lilith, Elsa, and Lady Hell, any of those. I struggle to remember which ones they are. So having that page really helped me to enjoy this book more. I don't need it to be a soap opera. And it really had that eventually someone is going to push someone else into a volcano because their baby isn't theirs. And someone tried to steal their makeup company, which apparently is a Days of Our Lives reference. But I thought this was a fun romp, right? It had a little too much, palace intrigue for me or whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't bad. It was a good time. And being reminded of what I read last time always helps me to enjoy a book more. Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I don't like drama. I didn't like the drama, and I also had no idea that these people were different. I was like, who is this person? This Draculina versus Vampirella. I didn't quite understand, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, the end almost tempts me to pick up the next copy, but I feel like I would probably trade it for something else. But I mean, it was fun. It was entertaining. I've wasted 15 minutes on worse things.
How about you, Mark?
I had no idea what was going on. I mean, none. And then at some point, we were outside with 2 different Draculas, and I guess Draculina's Vampirella Vampirello's sister or something. And then all of a sudden it turns into like a CW drama series like Pretty Little Vampires or something. And I have no idea what's going on. And
Pretty
like
Little
that
True
kid
Blood?
is not a
Pretty Little True Blood?
Pretty Little Vampires was a better pun, and I'll stick with that one.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know what I think because I don't understand what was going on. So is the girl a clone of Draculina, or it says like alt version? So what does that mean? Is it different universes here or what?
Yes.
Something. Okay.
Kinda?
Yeah.
I think that's a to be explained thing.
Okay.
Really, what we know is that she is Vampirella's sister and Lilith's daughter, right? These are the things we know. Beyond that, I think we're finding out. Draculina is a relatively newish character to me, so I don't know if she's been around for 60 years like Vampirella or if this is a new creation that we're still figuring out. Jay, what'd you think?
My very last note, I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be my first note. Not a beginner-friendly book by any means. By any means. I want to say I think this is the first one is the one I called. This should have been titled "The Bastards of Belial" because it was showing all the kids of Belial and Lilith. Not bad, but definitely a little too much going on for me, at least. It was kind of hard to get into the story. Again, that's just my personal opinion. You know, if you've never read a Draculina book, this definitely shouldn't be where you start. I honestly would like to know for people who follow this character and know some lore and history, you know, what they think about this book because, you know, to me, it's the art solid, but the segmented stories just they mess with me. Like I need something that's not 18 different threads of something going. It's got to be one thing. It's got to be one thing, you know, because we got this story that's happened with the alternate universe Draculina. Then you have, I think the woman with Lilith is also a Draculina. Like I can't even remember. I don't know. It feels like this book would work better if it was just a bunch of one shots of these characters. Putting them all in the same book is just, I don't know. It just gets confusing too easily.
It would be better if they took this story and put it into the Zenoscope methodology. Okay, here's this Draculina, and here's that Draculina, and here's this other Draculina, and here's this other Draculina, which is a thing that Dynamite would do because they'll have 37 Draculina titles at some point, just like they're doing with Red Sonja right now. So, I think you're right, Backwoods. I think what they're trying to do is, he says, I think they're trying to lay down some Draculina backstory as they go. I think you're right. I think we don't know enough about this character to know what we don't know. And they're trying to tell us, but they're doing it in a book called Blood Simple. They're doing it in the most complicated way. And so for that, I'm out in the Shark Tank world. All right. This is my second favorite book of the week. Because let's punch more stuff.
Yes.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead and go first. Man, I'm going to be honest. I really dug this one. I really dug it. It was like One Punch Man and the Frighteners slightly sprinkled in just a fun story. And I say fun, but the fun part comes when our main character learns what they can do. At the beginning, it's a little terrifying. It's a little scary at the beginning, I'll say. I loved some of the ghost designs in this. There are ghosts in this, spoiler. For some reason, I really love the fact that the mom was a power lifter. Usually they have the mothers doing like, housewives and stuff like that. This was a power lifter. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, and just the ending panel of this, I was just like, man, it's one of those times the comic did it to me again. The final panel, I have to read the next one now. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book.
So for me, this had Scott Pilgrim vibes too. Like it was all the things Jay aligned it with, but it also had Scott Pilgrim vibes. Where this to me feels like when we make it a movie, it's going to be ultra stylized and a little bit campy and super fun. This is a Comixology original. Right now, it's digital only. It will come out eventually from Dark Horse Comics once it's completed digitally. So we will read it again when it comes out as from Dark Horse as an imprint comic. So, yeah, I like the ghost designs. I like the names that they gave the ghosts. Like the easiest thing you can do to take away the scary part of ghosts is to give them dumb names. Right? Like if you want to have a ghost and call him Mr. Fluffy, that ghost is not scary anymore. It's why Slimer's the best.
It's true. Slimer's not scary because of that name.
Right. And then like to tell the story of, oh, well, he kind of has like the kid from Big Daddy vibes where it's I got to wear my sunglasses all the time. I've got, this is my backstory and why my hair is white and why I look the way I do and what I do. And then, oh yeah, by the way, kapow, right? And like the panels where he's doing what he does with the ghosts are hysterical to me. This book is a hit on every level, and I mean that in more than one way. I'm very, very excited to continue reading this book. I don't know how to say the name, Grammaton Punch, or I don't know exactly how I'm supposed to say that first word, but punch is the big word. This book is super punchy, and I love it. Mark?
Yeah, I like everything about this book. It also gives me a little bit of like Death Note vibes just from some of the creepy art. Some other type of anime, but I like the concept here. Are we allowed to talk about the concept of a book, or is that too spoilery?
Yeah, no, I mean we could talk about it.
Okay, well, yes, we're learning about him specifically and why he's the way he is and what his mom does and stuff, but just the overall concept of like there's constantly ghosts around draining all of our energy.
Right.
That's amazing. My apartment must be haunted to the roof. like there must be so many ghosts in here because I'm tired all the time. I love that, and it's got a little bit of the My Hero Academia too. If you've seen like that series, and especially the first 2 episodes where you're thrown into the story of the main character, and he's sort of like on the outside looking in. But this is like different because he's going to end up being the focus of it, which I guess same thing with almost all comics and anime. But I really like it, and I think the art works on every panel. And then it just I want to read more.
How about you, Amanda?
Oh yeah, I loved this. I was in like just from the start because I wasn't sure. I liked the kind of creepy like start to it where it's like, well, this awful monster is draining this poor little baby and turned his hair white. I was like super wanting to protect him, and then he makes the joke about the 13-year slump or the 13-year suck, which I was like, oh, yep, that's school. Or that's public school. And I loved that. I thought that was hilarious. And I also, as someone who has a lot of young children around me of varying ages, I really loved how he acknowledges that they think I'm play fighting, but I'm actually protecting them. And it absolutely made me think of like my nieces and nephews in a completely different way. It's like, are you seeing something that I'm not seeing? Is that why you're rolling on the floor like an animal?
You know,
So I loved it. Loved it.
you know, I will say this. There were some things in this book that are concepts we've seen before. So, you know, special powers of people who are born on the eclipse. That's a thing in this book. And there was a book called The Me You Love in the Dark or something. There's a book that came out last year or the year before or at the end of 2021 that was about monsters that hunt kids who are born on the eclipse. The idea of little kids can see ghosts is something that you see in shows like Ghost and Not Dead Yet and things like this, where you can see where kids can see ghosts and dogs and cats can see them too. That's why they bark at nothing or meow at nothing. So there's some of these concepts that you've seen before, but they're put together in a different way, and it makes it an absolute banger.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you're right. The concepts are familiar, but it is just fun, and it's how it's packaged that just makes you want to read more. Like, I want more of this, and I want it like yesterday.
Absolutely. All right, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Armageddon Game, number 6. So Amanda and Mark, I'm going to tell you, this is not actually number 6.
Oh.
This is like number 17.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because there's the regular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, and then there's the Armageddon Game, The Alliance, and then there's other things that tied into. So if you guys didn't get it, don't worry. Neither did anyone else. Jay?
I will say this. I will mirror Sean's sentiment in the comments. It's the first thing I put on here. Finally.
Yes.
Finally, some action. I wish this would have been like 5 books ago. I won't take too much time on this because it's just beating a dead horse. Man, I've been looking for this issue the whole time with this Armageddon Game. There was so much buildup. I don't think this has me totally back on board because there just was so many issues before this that were just kind of nothing. But at least when the next issue is put on the list, I won't look at it and be like, oh, great, another Turtles book. I'll actually be a little excited to read it. So.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is the 19th book in the series.
God. Oh, goodness.
Just so you know. Mark and Amanda, did you have thoughts?
None, because I could not decipher. I struggled so much with it. It's just one of those that I just had to I couldn't keep fighting it because we're 19 books in. So someone at IDW needs to learn how to count. And it might be something that I might like if they collect it all, kind of.
Yep. Would make it a little bit more fun because I liked the art style. I liked seeing the turtles. So there was a lot of it that I really liked, and I liked seeing some of the action, but I couldn't make heads or tails of this and where it was at.
How about you, Mark?
Too much going on. Also, why are there so many Krangs? And also, has there ever been a spinoff where it's Krangs versus zombies? Because that would be amazing. Zombies trying to eat the brains and the metal robots running around would be fantastic. And that's all I could think about.
I'll tell Kevin. Yeah, this book needed to be 13 issues ago. If you're going to do, this is 19 and there are 6 issues left. If you're going to do a 25 issue story arc, your first action can't be 17 issues in, and your first real book that moves the plot forward 19 issues in. You just can't do it. I was so high on the Armageddon Game with the way they had been plugging it and the things I had heard and the things that I had been told about this book, that to have it be this level of disappointing really, really frustrates the hell out of me. And I don't like being made to look like a mark. Not Mark the person, but like a mark, like a Ninja Turtle mark. Because this is going to be great. This is going to be great. No, it sucks. And I'm sorry. Moving on to something else that, in my opinion, sucks. Star Trek Defiant.
All right, Kyle, coming out swinging.
Be Star Wars or be nothing.
Oh.
There have been very few Star Trek books we've read. Mark loves Star Trek, or not Mark, Dan likes Star Trek. I think Jay kind of likes Star Trek a little.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do a Star Trek book, maybe make it something that anyone can read. And I couldn't. I've had Michael Dorn experience who's been a jerk to me. So I don't like Worf.
Hold on. You need to tell me that story offline.
Yeah. Fantasticon 2.
I don't remember that being the case, but okay.
Yes. So it's a thing for me. Yeah. No, I couldn't stand it. Mark?
Right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you remember the first movie where they had an hour and 15 minutes dedicated to like a
Lens
political
flare?
meeting? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no. The way back in the 70s. It was just like a political meeting for an hour and 15 minutes. That was more interesting than this. Are they saying like we're Defiant and giving you a good Star Trek story? Is that why it's called Defiant? Or we know Kyle's going to be Defiant anyway, so we're just going to write bad? I don't know. Like, the only thing to take away is like trying to figure out how many of these characters have cameos in The Big Bang Theory. What else am I supposed to do? Because I can't read it.
How about you, Amanda?
Okay. I'm also not like a big Star Trek person. I grew up watching like Next Generation and stuff with my dad because my dad was a huge Star Trek guy. So I was familiar with this. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Like I'm not rushing out to get this. I wouldn't add it to my pull list, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was, it felt like Star Trek to me. The characters seemed right. Like it was interesting. But definitely not something that like I'm rushing out for.
Go ahead, Jay. Make Sean feel less alone.
Let me go ahead and save my little big brother there. I liked it. I'm not going to go too much into this one because I really want to talk about the next book, but I like this one. I have a soft spot for Worf. I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan. I had watched the shows as a kid. Sean's the one that's got all the knowledge on that, but I like this one. Probably the best Star Trek book that we've read.
All right. And so we can try and get on time. Harrower number 2. Holy crap on a cracker. Better than the first issue. Absolutely bat crap insane. I'm here for it. I'm in. Justin Jordan is a god. Go ahead. Mark and Amanda?
You know what? This was surprised me because I started out, I didn't like it. I wasn't digging the teen party scene. And then all hell breaks loose and I went, okay, here we are. And I was signed on. Like I was like, good job, boom, because you got me on this one.
Mark?
I feel like this, like I felt about watching Tar. Like I think I hated it, but then I'm still thinking about it more than any of the other comics. So maybe I like it. I mean, I need to see what happened in number 1 for sure. Mm-hmm. But this is wild. I mean, like I don't read a ton of indie stuff, but this is violent. I mean, I read every issue of The Walking Dead, and this is wild. I mean, it's just wild. There's no other word.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's like I don't know. I can't. There's no other way to explain. I didn't expect this much disembowelment. I just didn't.
Jay, take her home.
I love this book so much. Sean is correct. This and Where Monsters Lie are two of the best slasher books I have read. This book is so good. I thought the first issue was amazing. Yes, Kyle, this one was even better. I can't wait for more of this. This needs to just go ahead and put me on the list for the trade. I want it now.
All right. We have got to get out of here to make room for Minute to Skim It in a minute's time. But I want to remind you guys that this show is brought to you without commercial interruption by ComicShopLocator.com. Head over to ComicShopLocator.com and type in the area code or the zip code of any place where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you. It will also tell you the things those comic shops do, like free comic book day, or if they're a library partner, if they're kid friendly. Give them a call before you go in. Make sure their hours are right. Make sure they're open. Make sure they're around. But visit ComicShopLocator.com to find great comic shops nearby to wherever you are. Are you traveling? ComicShopLocator.com gives you someplace to visit when you need to get away from your family or friends or your business meeting. ComicShopLocator.com. Thank you for continuing to support this show, even when we're off the rails and I'm talking bad about Star Trek. So for Dan, who is not feeling well, for Mark, Amanda, and Jay, I've been producer Kyle. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you being here every week to listen to us rant and rave about the comics we like and don't on in stores this week. Stay tuned for Minute to Skim It, and we will see everybody next time.